it was my pal and I. We'll call him Justin. Um, Him and I walked into the break room, which is underneath Lakeside, and this was the last year of Dia de los Muertos, and we found one of the props, one of the like the skeleton room props that the bodies that hang from the ceiling, and it was just hanging out there. And I think we were about to go back out from break when he was like, "Hey, let's go put this back." And I'm like, "Well, we okay." I didn't really take much convincing. And at that point in time, one of the talent captain for that year was a little lenient on things. They were very, as long as I don't have to do paperwork, or if I didn't see it, it didn't happen. And so a lot of the times it was, hey, we may or may not be doing this, or we may or may have done this, and we just kind of leave it up in the open. They're like, oh well, that's not a very clear descriptive sentence, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. So we just let them know, like, hey, we're gonna go scare by Dia as I'm holding this like child-sized skeleton, and our TC just looks at us and says, I didn't see anything, and then just proceeds to walk back into the break room. And we run in, and I'm not entirely sure what we're doing until we get there. And I mean, I have this idea, like, oh yeah, we're probably gonna run into the room somehow. We run into the talent captain for Dia, who is Mean Gene. God rest his soul. But he was definitely someone who was along the same lines as I don't care, but he was more along the lines of I really don't give a shit, just don't bother me. And so we're like, hey, Gene, that's clowns. We walk up to the front, and he's surprisingly just right there. And we're like, hey, Gene, you forgot this. And we're holding up this skeleton, and he looks at us, and we're like, we want to put it back to make sure it's with his friends. And he's just like, I don't care. And then he just leaves, and we're like, all right, well, what do we do? And we just say, fuck it, let's just run in. And so we jump the queue, we go under the ropes, and we're like, pardon me, excuse me, to like all these guests. And we literally run through Dia. And I just start screaming the Indiana Jones theme at the top of my lungs. And Justin joins in, and we're like dodging guests, dodging talent. And it's the greatest moment when you're running through and you see this cantina peasant come out for a scare and get a face full of clown. And we're like, ah! And they're like, oh, like super bummed out. And we make it through. We're like really nervous because I actually think this was our rookie year. And we finally make it to the skeleton room, and we stop, and because we don't know what's a prop and what's not, because if you remember, that specific room was just black and white skeletons, a black room, and UV, and it was designed to kind of like give you a false sense of security, like, oh, that's a prop, but there goes someone. And I look at Justin, and he's just like, well, just throw it, like, because we're starting to get panicky, like, okay, well, we've been in here for far too long. And I'm like, okay, and I throw it, and I thought I threw it at like a prop. But the prop that I threw just connects right with the talent's like just chest, and they hug it, and it scares the crap out of me. And I'm like, ah! And I grab Justin, and I'm feeling the wall. I find a curtain, I throw it open. We both run out, and we make it out to where it's just right across from Bumper Cars, that little like food vending spot. We make it out there, and a couple vets there saw us. And all they said was, did you get caught? And we're like, no. And they're like, good. Things suck. Nothing's normal right now. So don't put so much pressure on yourselves. Things are still changing. We don't know which direction they're going to be changing. So when you do feel, low, or like, oh, I should have, I wish I could go outside, or I shouldn't have eaten that much, or I shouldn't have like worried about this so much. Like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it so much, because the events happening around you are different. It's unprecedented. Like we don't know what the future has in store, and what we've been given is definitely scary. So keep going. just don't forget to breathe. And whatever you're going through, however you're coping with it, it's fine. And I was a big believer in, haunt being such a focal point in Halloween for me, because I've been a part of it for 12 years. In the last 12 years, I haven't really celebrated a Halloween. I haven't been to a Halloween party or dressed up as a character. But when Haunt was canceled, even though I did see it happening from months away, it still hurt, and it still kind of like it was a bummer. And I started thinking very negatively, like, oh well, that's it. Like, what am I gonna do this Halloween? And I had a talk with a friend of mine, and they put they put it into perspective for me. And then watching Brandon's video also kind of solidified that. Like, Halloween is forever. Halloween isn't just a theme park. Halloween is jack-o'-lanterns and pumpkin patches and scary movies with your friends, doing things safely. Netflix has Netflix Party. I'm sure they're going to be getting a bunch of horror movies. Just make one, set it up, send it to your friends. There's a lot of things that are happening with Halloween that we can still do. So stay positive, do your best.